everyone. Welcome to today's Stanford live stream. Today we are back with Kelly Bugos and her team from the APP Fellowship. And today we will be talking about the Administrative Fellowship. Applications are open right now and active on our website. So at any time you want to learn about more information or just start that application, just look at the QR code that's at the top of the screen and we'll get you there. But I would like to start off by introducing Kelly, who's going to just kind of talk about an overview of the program and the different, kind of the focus of the administration fellowship. So Kelly, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Carly, and hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this live stream event. And we thank you in advance for your interest in the APP Fellowship at Stanford Healthcare. Our fellowship started in 2016, so we are in our 10th year of helping APPs transition to practice. And you may have heard last week about our 5 clinical specialties. If not, take a look at the recording that is found on YouTube. For today, we want to talk about a different type of transition to practice. This is for APPs who are already clinical experts. They have more than 5 years of clinical experience, and they're looking to transition their career towards administration. This can include operational management. It can include hospital operations. It can include quality improvement or anywhere else where APPs add value to patient care. Our specialty is open for applicants for all types of APPs. That includes nurse practitioners, physician assistants, clinical nurse specialists, and CRNAs. So as you think about your career and your journey, think about whether a year of practice and increased knowledge would help you transition to an administration position. Our administration specialty has been open since 2019. You're going to get to meet one of our alumni and current fellows who will tell you much more about how the rotations and the experience works. Before I hand off the mic, I want to tell you a little bit more about the program itself. Our fellowship program is accredited with distinction, and it's specifically accredited for APPs, not for nurses or physicians. And with that comes the rigor, the evidence of rigor of our structure and our intention to help APPs be successful as they move to the next chapter in their professional life. So with that, I'll hand the mic to Allison Cook.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Allie. I'm the current APP Administrative Fellow here at Stanford Healthcare. I come from Tampa, Florida, with a 6-year clinical background in cardiology, and I made the decision to move across the country to transition more intentionally into leadership and to administration. Currently, my day-to-day can vary quite a bit, but if I had to summarize it, I'd put my days into 2 main categories, with the first one being a working or project-focused day. On those days, I usually have several meetings with the Center for Advanced Practice, along with meetings related to various projects or events that I'm involved with. And then outside those meetings, the remainder of my day is intentionally flexible. I'm responsible for managing my own time, making sure I'm progressing on projects or following up on action items, and then planning the next steps in my project goals. I will say, since starting the fellowship, I have fully become the person who gets way too excited about checking things off a to-do list. But that autonomy is a huge part of the fellowship. You learn very quickly how to prioritize, how to protect your focused work time, and how to manage yourself effectively. I've also realized that I might be more type A than I was previously willing to admit, now that I can see that side of me is really thriving in this position. So the fellowship really treats you like a professional leader in training and not just a student being supervised minute to minute. And then the second category is a conference day, which looks very different. And it's honestly one of my favorite parts of the fellowship. On those days, I get to spend the majority of the time with the clinical APP fellows, and I participate in their lectures or educational sessions. And I'm currently transitioning into a management role with them. So I'm increasingly involved in mentorship and operational support for our clinical APPs. We do have a lot of valuable trainings that go on during our conference days that support our growth as advanced practice providers and as leaders. And an example of one of those would be our communication series, which occurs once a month. And so far, we've been using the time to better understand ourselves and how we interact with others so that we can be more effective in our roles, either a clinical APP or as a leader. And all of the fellows, including the administrative fellow, participate in Journal Club. And this week it was my turn to present. So I chose an article focused on billing optimization algorithm developed at an academic institution, and then use that as an opportunity to draw parallels to the work that we're doing here at Stanford, highlighting the importance of billing for APPs and using it as a framework to help guide the creation of our own billing algorithm within the fellowship. So with that, I will introduce you to one of our former administrative APP fellows. Bob, if you're on the line.
Yes, thank you, Allie. Hi, everyone. My name is Robert Day. I'm a nurse practitioner. I was the APP Administrative Fellow from 2022 to 2023. I originally come from the East Coast, and my background is primarily in pediatric emergency medicine with some primary care background. And I was very fortunate, very happy to get this fellowship. I will say that Kelly Bugos, the director, and everyone here is extremely fair in the hiring process. They take a really good look in depth at each candidate, and it doesn't matter where you're from in the country, your experience as an APP, or like your seniority at Stanford. They take a good, even-handed look at everyone. And so I was very fortunate to be hired here. When I was the APP Administrative Fellow, similar to Allie, I got a lot of opportunities. I got to facilitate meetings, got to do leadership courses, including Stanford's New Leader Orientation, their Employee Labor Relations course, Leadership and Management Academy, and their Advancing Communication Excellence at Stanford. I also had the opportunity to get certified in Lean Six Sigma in the Greenbelt with a focus in healthcare, and did a project after that to help improve length of stay for elective neurosurgery cases here at Stanford Healthcare. After the APP Administrative Fellowship, I was hired into the pre-anesthesia clinic as lead APP here. So I now have 22 direct reports. I work with a team optimizing about 50,000 patients a year in preparation for their surgeries. So we have a team of about 50 APPs. I have almost half of them. And so I'm getting to put my experience from the APP Administrative Fellowship into practice every day. And I'll hand it back to Carly or Kelly.
Thanks so much, Bob. I'm actually going to pass the baton over to Ashley Beal so she can talk a little bit more about next steps, how to apply, and everything that you need to have to make sure that your application is good to go. Ashley.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ashley Beal, and I'm the Senior Talent Acquisition Consultant that is supporting the Administrative Fellowship here at Stanford. Thank you all for joining. I'm excited to walk you through the application process, important dates, and what you can expect as a candidate for the 2026 to 2027 cohort. Carly, do you mind sharing the slides with the dates? Let's start with the timeline. The applications for the 2026 to 2027 Administrative Fellowship will open in early December. From that point on, you'll have until February 15th to submit your completed application. And actually, the applications are live now, so you have until February 15th to submit your application. After the application window closes, our team begins review, and qualified candidates will be invited for interviews. Those interviews are typically held between mid-March and early April. Following interviews, we finalize selections and extend offers in late April through early May. For those who accept, your official start date will be October 12th, 2026. This is a full-time, one-year fellowship that runs through early October the following year. Next slide, please. When you apply, there are several components that must be included in your submission to be considered complete. First, you'll need 2 letters of reference. These may come from leaders, physicians, supervisors, or other individuals who can speak directly to your performance and potential in a leadership administrative capacity. Because many applicants wait until the last minute, the best advice I can give is to ask for your letters early. Second, we require an unofficial transcript. This doesn't have to be sealed or mailed directly from your academic institution. An uploaded PDF is perfectly fine. Third, please upload your most recent resume or curriculum vitae. And finally, you'll be asked to respond to 5 short answer essay prompts. These give us insight into your leadership interest, your motivation for applying, and how you think about administrative work within the healthcare environment. Now, let's look at what the role looks like from an HR and benefits perspective. This fellowship is a full-time, 1-year fixed-term position. You'll be a salaried employee with access to the full range of Stanford healthcare benefits. That includes medical, dental, and vision coverage, disability benefits, retirement plans, and generous paid time off. Most fellows end up with roughly 36 days of PTO over the course of a year, depending on accruals and holidays. The compensation range, which is updated annually to stay competitive, aligns with the salary band for advanced practice provider leads. What that means is, in practical terms, your compensation is highly competitive within the Bay Area healthcare landscape and reflects Stanford's commitment to supporting fellows in a meaningful way during their training year. We're often asked what happens after the fellowship ends. While the fellowship in itself is a 1-year appointment, our hope is that fellows will continue to grow within Stanford Healthcare. Many of our past fellows have moved into APP lead roles, manager roles, or strategic administrative positions here in the organization. While continued employment isn't guaranteed, the program is intentionally structured to prepare you for leadership opportunities, whether here at Stanford or within another major healthcare system. Before I wrap up, I want to share a few tips for creating a strong application. Start early, especially on your letters of recommendation. Use the essay prompts to tell us who you are, not just what you've done, and be intentional about why the fellowship is appealing to you. And finally, don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions during the process. We're here to support you. Thank you for joining us today, and we're truly excited to meet this year's applicants and reviewing your materials. I'll now hand it back to Carly to continue our session.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Well, now comes the fun part. For those of you that are watching and you have questions for Allie, for Bob, for Kelly, drop them in the chat, whichever platform you're streaming on. We would be happy to have them answer, because how often do you get a chance to ask your question and it gets answered immediately? But while we wait for you guys to come up with some fun ones, I have some of my own. So Bob, I'm going to pick on you first, being that you have already completed our admin fellowship. Can you tell me about some of your favorite memories during your time with us?
Thanks, Carly. That's a good question. So some of my favorite memories would be, one, I got to be co-chair of the APP Week committee. So working with one of our directors to plan a big event. I wasn't really looking forward to this because I thought that event planning was not something I want to do in my future. But I have to admit that learning how to plan a big event with thousands of people and control the funds, the supplies, the equipment, getting space reserved and everything. It was actually a really valuable experience where I got to meet a lot of new people here at Stanford and greatly enjoyed that. Also, doing the project for my fellowship, each fellow will pick a project that they will do, a quality improvement project, after they complete Lean Six Sigma Green Belt in healthcare. And so the project I did, which was reducing inpatient length of stay for elective neurosurgery cases, that one, it wasn't so enjoyable at the time, but at the end, it was extremely satisfying to look back and see that we had really decreased the length of stay for people who had been sitting around waiting for a SNF to accept them, or for transportation, or who had other delays that would have happened likely or were happening before the intervention. So I would say those are two of my favorite things.
I love that. Okay, so don't get too comfortable, because I have another question for you. What have you learned that surprised you?
That relationships matter, and they matter very much. And so I would say, communications and being quick and responsive, I learned was more important than I anticipated. Building relationships with people and doing high quality work. So being a responsive, nice, kind team player, can really pay off dividends in the future.
Okay, and I'm going to ask the same question, Allie. What is something that you have learned that surprised you?
So I am about 2 months into the fellowship, and I would say the biggest thing that surprised me so far since starting is the type of projects that I'm finding a lot of interest in. So one of the terms that has been said to me a million times is Stanford is where a million flowers can bloom. So if you have an idea or you have a passion, there's somebody that's there to support it and to help really uh, bring that idea to life with you and for you. So I really feel that everyone that I work with are genuinely invested in my growth and really want for me to succeed. So I would say the types of projects I'm involved with are the most shocking because I'm getting the opportunity to get a little piece of the pie in every single category. So I find myself more drawn to operational and very broad projects. And then I also love working with the finances, which is something that surprised me quite a bit.
I love that answer. Well, I'm going to ask you another question since I kind of have you here. What do you think mentorship work looks like? And Bob, I'm going to ask you right after Allie, but if you guys could kind of elaborate on that, what you think that looks like in an administrative program.
So from my standpoint, I will view it as the side of mentorship within the organization. They are being the mentors for me. So I would say, um, like I said, everyone really wants me to succeed, and they're very interested in what my personal goals are and helping me find projects and getting me involved in things that look like that. And so mentorship to me really looks like being able to lean on or reach out to all these people who are currently acting as my mentors within the organization and gather some insight from their experiences and get some really good advice on how to proceed and how to move forward.
And from my perspective, mentorship was a big part of this program. And so Kelly was a big mentor of mine leading this program. Also, we're fortunate to have executive interviews be a part of the fellowship. So we get a chance once to sit down with a couple executives. So chief of staff, chief medical officer, chief advanced practice officer, got to meet each of them one-on-one and get their personalized advice for career growth and growth at Stanford. Also, we got a chance to serve as mentors for new APPs in the APP mentorship program, which Kelly will speak more to. And got a chance to mentor other new employees. I'll pass it to Kelly there.
Thank you, Bob. And thank you for bringing up that point about the executive mentorship that's available to the administration APP fellows. We also have an APP mentorship program at Stanford Healthcare, and every APP that joins Stanford Healthcare with less than 3 years of advanced practice experience is enrolled in this program. And we have upwards of 600 APPs who have been involved in that program. The APP admin fellow serves as a mentor. So in this case, they are the mentor to new to practice clinical APPs. And so they have the opportunity to learn how to facilitate meetings and to enrich those one-on-one experiences as needed. Back to you, Carly.
Thanks so much, Kelly. I am going to kind of pivot back to you though, real quick. I'm thinking about the fellowship program itself. So I know in years past, a common question that has come up is, do I have to have a certain specialty as an APP to apply for this role? Do I have to have a certain type of master's degree to apply for this role? Can you kind of clarify what you're ideally looking for when you're looking at these candidates for this particular fellowship?
Yeah, thank you. We get that question quite often. And the answer is there are no specific degree requirements other than to have completed a degree that affords you the certification as an APP, and state licensure. Think about it this way, that APPs are clinicians that add value to patient care and are increasingly part of the administrative teams. And so the idea of our program is to help that APP gain the experience so they can be successful in the future. So no MBA, no MHA, no other special degree or certification is required other than what's required to be an APP within the state of California.
Thanks so much, Kelly. Bob, I'm going to pass the next question back to you. I always like to give you a little heads up. When you were, so thinking back again to when you were part of the fellowship, when it came to peer support, what was that like, having that within the fellowship program and something that, just helps you grow as a fellow?
Thanks, Carly. So yes, peer support was a big part of the fellowship. I use the term peer loosely because there's a lot of people in leadership positions that I was working with that were, above me technically. But all the APP managers, the program managers in the Center for Advanced Practice, the directors, senior directors, were all super nice and supportive. I got a chance to rotate to the different areas to meet and then work with the different operational leaders from the Center for Advanced Practice. So the peer support was just a constant throughout the program, I would say.
Allie, I'm going to pass it over to you. Kind of asking the same question since you're currently in the fellowship. Just what has that peer support been like since you've been a part of the program?
I feel like I've gained 100 new friends since starting the program. So at the very beginning of my fellowship, I took the first several weeks to meet one-on-one with other advanced practice providers within the Center for Advanced Practice, including some managers, some team leads. And so really starting to form those relationships at the very beginning and learning what their roles could be and the different possibilities of different types of projects I can do within my fellowship really helped me feel supported with my peers. And now that I know them more on a personal level, a lot of these meetings we did, instead of doing over Zoom, I would meet for them. I would meet with them for coffee, and it really created a personal connection. So I do feel like I am a part of the team. I feel like I can reach out to any of my peers whenever I need any support.
Thank you so much, Allie. All right, we're getting to some of the questions that are down below in the chat. And I'm actually going to pass this next one to you, Kelly. Claire asked, how do you think this compares to a doctorate MBA program when the aim is for systems change and or leadership?
Claire, thank you for your question and appreciate you attending today's live stream event. So I think the first difference is that an MBA program is schooling, right? It's the idea is to gain new knowledge. And the fellowship program is practice. So while there's organizational learning with both leadership academies and other offerings, the idea is that the fellow is actually practicing what they've learned. So that's the first distinction. And then I'm going to draw on the experience of our first APP admin fellow who actually finished her MBA within the first few months of her fellowship. And her takeaway, or what she shared with us, is that they're very different, that there is systems thinking and that change management and that type of work that happens during the curricula of the MBA. But then practicing it and being in the real world, particularly with the APP and healthcare focus, is often quite different. And that when compared, that the success for her came from the practice.
I'm going to transfer back over to you. So this is the nurse practitioner, physician assistant, APP fellow, actually clinical practice to administration. Can you talk about what that transition was like for you? Because it is a big transition, and there's a lot that goes into it.
There is, you are right. There is a lot that goes into it, but I do meet with the other administrative APP fellows at least monthly, and I have all of their personal cell phone numbers, and I text and call them frequently to help guide me through this transition. And I really get a lot from their feedback, and I get a lot of useful advice to make this transition a little easier for myself. But I think one of the most meaningful shifts has been how my work has expanded beyond a single team. So as a clinical APP, I was very team focused, and I often struggled to participate meaningfully in a lot of quality improvement or broader initiatives because I didn't have that dedicated administrative time. So now in the fellowship, the work is much more institution-wide and collaborative, and I have the opportunity to work with leaders across the organization in both non-clinical and clinical roles. So that's really broadened my perspective and expanded how I think about the healthcare system as a whole. So the fellowship is designed to expose us to how the system actually works and not just how we function inside of it. So I feel that it is truly personalized to each individual and allows you to grow in the areas that align with your interests and long-term goals the best. The other major shift has been how time is structured. So clinically, especially in the outpatient setting, your day is largely already built for you. And then in administration, you are responsible for structuring your own day and being thoughtful about how you use your time. So that shift really emphasizes the self-management, prioritization, and decision-making that is necessary to proceed with this fellowship.
Thank you so much, Allie. One of the questions that I've seen before from previous candidates when we've had these live streams is there's so many different opportunities, obviously, throughout the US, and a lot of people are looking at Stanford, but they're on the East Coast, they're in the South, they're in the Northeast, and it seems like such a jump to try to commit from going to the East Coast to the West Coast. So Bob, you did it. You went East Coast, West Coast, or some of us like to call it the best coast. What would you say to someone that was on the fence about applying to Stanford solely because they're nervous about making that leap across the country, leaving their community, leaving what they know to jump on this opportunity? What can you tell them to kind of ease their fears? And what do you feel around you once you joined Stanford and kind of were able to kind of immerse yourself in our community?
Hi, Carly. That's funny. You call it from the East Coast to the best coast. I call it from the East Coast to the expensive coast. But the weather is much nicer here in California, I will say, than the Northeast from where I'm from. So when someone comes to Stanford Healthcare, they get a packet that Kelly and I helped create in a coordination with talent acquisition that has a lot of transportation and other information in it. One thing that Stanford does, which is really nice, is they'll provide employees with a Caltrain pass. So like it goes from Gilroy in the South to San Francisco. So you can kind of find a place anywhere along that corridor or however, if you want to drive to come here. And one tip I'll give is that the California Board of Nursing is very thorough and takes their time. I'll try and put it nicely there. So make sure you start any licensing if you are an NP. Make sure you start that process early because they can take a while. Stanford, like you already mentioned, it's a fully paid program. So you'll be able to afford renting a place or whatever when you're new here. Everyone's very nice. So there's a lot of support. Kelly was always very available for any advice needed or guidance. So yeah, it was a pretty easy transition, I would say.
Well, and I just realized that Allie also did the big jump. So I guess I'm going to ask you the same question, Allie. You're newer, you've more recently started. So since being here, what can you say has helped you just jump right in and feel like this is where you were meant to be with an administrative fellowship program?
Yes, Carly, that's true. So I just moved here from Tampa, Florida, and I Up until somewhat recently, I really thought that I was never going to leave Tampa. I was born and raised in Chicago and then had moved to Florida and been there ever since I graduated high school. So I really built a community there. So deciding to proceed with this big change was huge for me. But I will say, since I've been here, the culture at Stanford, especially within the Center for Advanced Practice, has been incredibly supportive. They're, like I said a million times, they're genuinely invested in you, your growth, and they want to see you succeed. So there's never going to be a perfect time to move, but I personally am very glad I took the leap of faith. The transition was much smoother than expected. Both professional and personal growth have been absolutely worth it. And I don't feel like my relationships that I have in Tampa are suffering at all. And I really learned the value of phone calls and FaceTimes. And then when we do see each other, we decide to meet and see each other for a trip. That time is more meaningful. But also, you don't know what you don't know. So you don't know those amazing connections that you can make out here in California as well. So I also just love the Bay Area lifestyle. So that being outdoors all the time, hiking, and the overall environment has been a really great fit for me. And I will say, not having hurricanes has been a really nice bonus.
I think the hurricanes was your best selling point. No hurricanes, no tornadoes, an earthquake here and there, but you get used to them and then you eventually just sleep through them at night. Thinking about long term, so then once you're done with your fellowship program, I kind of wanted to pivot a little and go back to picking on Bob a bit. So Bob, you've had a track. You went from pediatrics to admin to adult pre-anesthesia. So 3 very different areas, very different specialties, essentially. Can you talk just a little bit about those different transitions and maybe, examples that you can give me of what it was like moving from peds to the administration fellowship, then moving on to where you are now?
Hi, Carly. Sure. So each transition was a big change, but a good change where I had a lot of growth and got to learn a lot. So going from PEDS emergency department to the fellowship, everything is different just going from clinical to administrative to begin with. And then working in a pediatric facility to an adult facility is a big change. As we like to say in pediatrics, kids are not just small adults. They're very different. But each change requires a lot of time, attention, learning, but that's how you grow. And what I would say is that Kelly and the Center for Advanced Practice provided just tons and tons of mentorship, training, and help with all of that. And I'd say just the biggest change is more so going from clinical to administrative, where you're dealing with all sorts of processes, you're dealing with employee labor relations, leadership and operations are just totally different than clinical work, but it's interesting and it's a growth experience, which I enjoyed very much.
Thank you, Bob. Allie, I'm going to ask you first, but then Bob, I'm coming right back to you. For anyone that's watching, and think back to when you guys were applying to this fellowship, is there anything you wish you would have known when you applied, or anything that made you nervous, and if you could go back to that self to be able to tell them, like, this is it, this is the jump you want to make, this is the program you want to do, like, what advice can you give for those candidates that are back in that part where you guys were just, well, for Allie, it was almost about a year ago the applications opened and she was applying. So what made you jump, Allie? What made you go, yep, this is it, I'm applying, and here's why I'm so glad I did?
So I had always been interested in the transition to administration, but I went to a Mayo Clinic conference, and our Chief Advanced Practice Officer, Claire, was presenting on the fellowship during that conference. So that's kind of the moment that I said, wow, I want to do that. I really want to be involved in that. So I think that was probably the last thing that made me say, hey, this is important for me and my career growth. And so this is something that I really wanted to do. And then from there, it was just figuring out the logistics, the interview process. I agree with Ashley. Definitely make sure that you're getting your letter of recommendation in. You can see this person every single day, but sometimes it's very hard to get people to just finalize that letter of recommendation, because once they leave and go on through the rest of their personal day, that might not be the priority for them. So just make sure that you're getting that done sooner rather than later. And then advice I would say during the interview process, one thing that I didn't know about is the one-way interviews. If you get to that level, is how I would respond to that. And so they ask you a question and you have to record yourself with the answer, and you don't get a lot of opportunities to adjust. So I would say be confident in your answer. Do not stare at yourself on the screen and overanalyze how you say each word. So after I got through the interview process and I got started, now looking back, and I was so nervous at many, many points, especially moving from Florida, especially going through that huge life transition. I was very nervous, but now that I look back on each and individual part that I was nervous about, big picture, you are doing the right thing for your career, and you will have the support that you need here at Stanford. So I say definitely go for it. You will not regret it.
Sorry, I was muted. My advice for applicants would be just be patient and be thoughtful throughout the application process. Make sure you double check everything as far as the requirements. And I would also say don't get discouraged. Like, there's a few hundred people watching this now, I heard. But don't forget, lots of people will apply to a number of different positions, a number of different organizations. So that narrows down the candidate field significantly. So it takes patience. It's a multi-month process to apply and come here, but this is one of the best organizations in the country for healthcare. It's one of the few, if not the only, accredited with distinction APP Administrative Fellowship. And I would just remind people, especially if you're not a nurse, if you're a physician assistant or other, one of the nice things about Stanford Healthcare is it's extremely role agnostic. There's a lot of infrastructure around nursing leadership. And I feel like in some organizations, the PAs don't have quite the opportunity. Here at Stanford, I really like that. I forget in the Center for Advanced Practice who's a PA or NP. Our Chief Advanced Practice Officer, Claire, she's a physician assistant and everything. And so we like, just a variety of diversity in professions, backgrounds, all of that. So just be patient and diligent in applying.
Thank you so much, Bob. We got another question in the chat, and Claire's asking, and so I'm going to pass this to you, Kelly, being that this is your program and you've probably seen it all. Is it possible to do this program if you've got young kiddos at home? Obviously, there's a lot that goes into that. So is it feasible to just go ahead and apply now, or is it something that maybe they want to wait a couple of years on?
Thanks, Carly, and thank you for the question, Claire. The answer ultimately is up to the individual. Some of the things to consider is that many of our fellows, clinical and administrative, do have children, and that the administration work week is primarily office hours, often beyond 8 hours, but there's some inherent flexibility outside of the meetings to be able to manage a personal life. We work hard to have a robust experience and a lot of practice hours, and to recognize that we are humans with full lives. And it's actually our human experience that is most important in how we perform and take care of, health. Perform and take care of patients, or help others take care of patients here at work. So we look for a balance in terms of being able to support our fellows to do have a strong effort to have a robust experience, and to still play the other roles in their lives. So I hope that answers your question.
Don't get too comfortable, Kelly. We just had another question come in that I thought was fabulous. This person asked, since being in Silicon Valley is an advantage, does Stanford Healthcare incorporate the surrounding tech innovation into the program to prepare administrative fellows to lead what seems to be an AI tech-driven landscape of healthcare for in the future?
Yeah, wow, that's a great question. And I think it's I have two parts to my answer, and then I'll see if Ali actually wants to add. So one thing is because we are fortunate to have leaders who are investing in technology and AI, is we first of all have the tools. We have tools that we need to be able to um, dissect charts, to find information, to sort out problems, to be able to organize that work in ways that we can have multiple team members working on the same documents. For our clinicians, we are heavily invested in things like chat EHR and then uh, um, ChatGPT of a unique brand. And so those having those tools definitely helps us be able to do our job well. It helps our ability to inquire and to discover and then to solve problems that maybe didn't seem solvable before. And then we're kind of, I think, moving towards a new era and how we think about even things like program management and how we may work with our partners to be able to use the AI technology in a very different way. And Ali, if you want to just say one sentence about something you're interested in.
So to add on about the living in a tech environment where AI is very driven, I will say coming from other facilities, I definitely feel that Stanford is one of the very first to get all of the new technology and be able to implement it within our institution. But once again, I will emphasize that your projects can be personalized to what your interests are. So if tech is something you are super interested in, there is a million projects that are centered around technology with at Stanford that you can absolutely jump in and be a part of. And one of the projects that I am currently working on is very tech focused. So I also thought that was a very interesting location to be in. So I am taking advantage of it. And that was a really good point to bring up.
Thank you so much, Ali. Closing in on our live stream event this afternoon. So if you have any last questions for Ali, Bob, Kelly, or Ashley, feel free to drop them in the chat. We want to be able to have the chance to get them answered for you right here. And if you're watching this maybe later on tonight, tomorrow, another day, if you scan that code right above or look in the caption of whichever streaming event you're joining us from, there will be a link to our APP Fellowship website. On there, you'll find the direct links for the different applications for all of our APP specialties for the fellowship program, from administration to our clinical-based ones. Also, it'll talk about what is required on there for your application, shows you some insights from previous. You can learn about previous fellows as well. And then there's also our LinkedIn APP Fellowship page, which posts a lot of fun updates. You get a really good overview about the program, but also you get to meet current and past fellows, see what they do, getting out into the community, different activities they do to really create that bond as they complete this fellowship program. And I just noticed we had a quick question, so I wanted to hop in real quick. Oh, to the user from the Northeast, I really hope we were able to answer that question for you about just where we're headed with AI. But to wrap up this session, I did want to pass it over to Kelly so that she could just, anything else you want to add, Kelly, anything you don't feel like we had a chance to talk about. You know, I know this program has evolved so much over the years, and every year it's just growing into something more meaningful and more impactful for the Bay Area. So anything you'd like to say to anyone that's out there still on the fence, even after hearing some of the great remarks from Bob and even Ali of what she's experiencing currently as a fellow?
Thank you, Carly. And so I would say in closing that to remember that our fellowship program is integrated, again, with the intention of helping all the fellows succeed in their transition to practice. So one of the benefits of that is that we sit around a table and there's clinicians that are in cardiothoracic surgery, orthopedics, electrophysiology, cancer, inpatient neurosciences, and administration. So our conversations are deep and rich. And so even within the fellowship program structure, there is opportunity not only to learn and to lead, but to actually just broaden your breadth of clinical understanding. And then, as you heard today, the Admin Fellow works primarily with our leaders within the Center for Advanced Practice. We are so fortunate to have 98 or more % of our somewhere around 950 APPs answer to APPs. And so that structure alone provides the opportunity for our APP Admin Fellows to really partner with other APP leaders and be able to learn and practice. So in closing, I will just say once again, thank you for joining the live stream. Please click on that QR button and look at our website and then send us your questions as they arise. Take care.
Well, everyone, that wraps up this edition of our live stream, but I just wanted to show everyone on the team and just to say thank you for joining us. And remember, at any time you can scan that QR code, you can click on our APP Fellowship LinkedIn or the website, and we will see you on